Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is Grey's Anatomy Season 2, Episode 24, Damage Case. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So this episode is focused on one specific case for the medical side of the show. So we have a intern from Mercy West, which is another hospital in Seattle, who has caused a car accident, which has left a family in a bad way. So 3 get out mostly unscathed. The father, mother, and the husband all get out unscathed. However, there is a pregnant woman, Melanie, who does come in, and at first she seems to be fine like everybody else. However, it's later revealed that that was due to the adrenaline, and when they get her into a CT scan, they see that her injuries are actually incredibly catastrophic. So they start to operate. However, they then need to stop midway, cover her in plastic, and wait for her to stabilize before they can try again, all the while trying to keep the baby alive. They do bring her back into surgery. However, the mother is lost, but Alex does manage to save the baby. And so in the end, we do have the family grieving the loss of their daughter, but they do have their granddaughter slash, or grand, I don't think this gender is revealed, so it's actually grandbaby slash baby. And then the intern Marshall, he does get the chance to apologize to the father, who handles it very well and puts his hand on his shoulder without saying anything before leaving to return to grieving with his family. And of course, all of the interns have that feeling of it's one of us. We've all fallen asleep at random places, at restaurants, on park benches, during physical intimacies, and yet nothing really bad has happened there, but it could have been any one of them because they all lead that lifestyle. And then as for like the personal dramas, obviously Christina and Burke are a little bit frosty because she fell asleep during physical intimacies. Callie had to go to the washroom, was made awkward because both Meredith and Izzy were there, and so washed her hands in the kitchen downstairs, which they didn't know, so then they started spreading rumors that she doesn't wash her hands, which by the end, she basically tells George like he has to start sticking up for her. And then we had Derek, who is incredibly, incredibly jealous of Finn with Meredith, even though he's the one who made the choice to be with Addison, not Meredith, which Meredith points out, so he then ends their friendship. Meanwhile, Meredith and Finn, he's being a little bit healthy and she's getting a bit like, oh no, he's too healthy for me. He points out that she's broken, well, not broken, but scary and damaged is the term he uses. She then spends the day trying to figure out if they should be together. At the end of the episode, we then have them having a talk, and Finn reveals his history and family life and basically says like he knows she's scary and damaged. He didn't say he wasn't scary and damaged too. And they share their first kiss at the end of the episode. And then Izzy and Denny are still ongoing, getting well, Denny comes in and he's pushing his heart too far. She's upset about this. He's having a hard time dealing with being a patient when he used to be healthy. And they fight throughout the episode, but after the loss of Melanie, Izzy comes in and cuddles and they seem to be doing okay. But that is essentially what happened in this episode. Essentially. So now it's time to rank the episode. As always, we'll be ranking on our mostly objective ranking list first, followed by the personal ranking list. So starting with our mostly objective rank values, there were a lot that applied to this episode. So first we have a +5, as we have 5 single episode supporting characters introduced. That is Marshall Stone, the intern from the other hospital who caused the accident by falling asleep behind the wheel for only a moment after working 30 hours and then deciding to scrub in for an additional 12 hours on a surgery, which he claims he'd done before without negative issue, but now there is a negative issue, obviously. Then we have Jim and Betty Johnson, who are the parents of Melanie, who is pregnant. And then we have Melanie and Noah Reynolds. Noah, obviously, the husband of Melanie and father to her child. And then Melanie is the one who is pregnant, who unfortunately is the only one who passes away due to the accident, due to the severity of her injuries, though her baby is able to be saved. Then we had our multi-episode supporting character introduction, or character development, I should say, which is, of course, we learn more about Finn as a character. So we learn about his history. So his mother died of cancer at 10 after a long battle. When she died, his father wasn't able to handle it well, and so even though he is alive, it's like he's dead, and he basically is an alcoholic. And then the last relationship Ben was in was actually a marriage to a wife that he loved. However, she ended up dying in a car accident, which basically he then says that Meredith coming into his life has made him believe that his luck has turned around now. Which brings us to our supporting relationship development, which both of these things are worth 2 points each. So supporting relationship development, obviously Meredith and Finn's relationship is moving forward. We have the healthy breakfast. She's talking to Izzy about how they're 4 dates in and they haven't even kissed yet, which Izzy is proud of because obviously Meredith has jumped into the physical side of relationships very quickly, and this time she's taking a step back, which is a lot more healthy. And of course, he's making breakfast for her. He points out that he already knows that she's scary and damaged. She tries to deny it. He knows it's true. She then spends the episode trying to figure out if she can handle a healthier type of relationship. And then she tries to break up with him, or basically expresses her insecurity in the relationship. And that's when he reveals about his family and how he feels like his luck is changing because she likes dogs, she enjoys pony births, and obviously has the ability to save lives, and this is when they share their first kiss together, which is great. And then we finally, our last positive points was +3, and this was for the successful emotional impact, and that I felt came down to the focus on one patient and their family and their family's reactions to the loss of that one patient, and the reaction of the person who caused the accident and that person to lose their life was incredibly successful in this episode. We had enough time to get to know the characters, to care about the characters, and therefore when the character was lost and everyone had their various reactions to that loss, it managed to be impactful. I was this close, like very, very, very close to crying. I didn't. I rarely do. But I was close. And that is why it was very successful. And that brings our positive points up. But we did have some negatives. First negative was Derek's behavior and jealousy. You know, he finds Meredith at the vet's house. He had to know at some point, because he chose Addison, that she was going to move on. And in past episodes, I feel like we have addressed this, that she was going to move on eventually. But up to date, she's only had like flings or short term, or the thing with George. This is the first time she's in like an actual relationship where she's gone on 4 dates and seems to actually really like the other person, and he is not handling it well. So much so that they have a bit of a blowout where he basically implies that she is sleeping around a bit too much, and she basically gets angry at him for implying that she's not allowed to sleep around because, you know, she was done. He was her person. He was the one she was going to spend the rest of her life with. And then he chose Addison, left her. Now she has to pick up the pieces, and basically, as she tells him, he has no right to tell her how she has to heal from what he damaged or broke. But I do feel it is a bit of a regression. Like, he made his choice, and I understand, like, jealousy, but the fact that he's not controlling his jealousy, he's treating her really poorly in this episode, and then ultimately ends their friendship. I think that it's a regression of the character. I do. He was acting mature. They were being friends. They were successfully being friends. And then this happened. So, -1. Then we have -2 for the supporting relationship regression slash breakup. And this, of course, is Izzy and Denny are fighting in this episode. He comes in collapsed because he tried to do stairs, though she wasn't supposed to do. She then basically scolds him for it and tries to cheer him up. He basically yells at her, basically, I'm saying basically a lot, aren't I? Essen- Essentially, what it boils down to is he used to be very healthy. He used to be very, as he describes himself, a virile, wild horse of a man. And now he's in this infirm, sick body that he doesn't know how to handle or to do with. He almost wishes that she hadn't convinced him to, put his heart on a battery, but to have just let him die because he just can't handle it. She, in the end, she does, cuddle with him and come find him when Melanie dies because obviously everybody was impacted by the death. So you could say that's bringing them back to where they were, but throughout most of the episode, he's being a jerk to her. She's trying to cheer him up when he's clearly not interested, so basically not listening to the signs and signals her partner is sending. And they basically are in a negative state throughout the entire episode, hence the regression portion and the -2 points. And then we have the main relationship regression slash breakup. And this is the fact that Christina fell asleep during physical intimacies with Burke. Burke then starts treating her coldly throughout the episode, and even at the end of the episode, he's still, eating his meal and bringing a book up to be like between them. So basically hasn't quite forgiven her for falling asleep during their physical activities. However, honorable mention in addition to that, which is -3 points, is of course again Derek and Meredith. Obviously, they're end game. They're not actively in a relationship, so they don't technically count for the regression or breakup at this point because they're not romantically involved. But their friendship did break up, so I will honorably mention it. But it's not part of the points. The points are for the Christina and Burke negative impact. Either way, once all of that is considered, that leaves this episode with a 6 out of 10 objectively. And that now brings our season 2 rankings so far on our mostly objective ranking to in first, Make Me Lose Control, Into You Like a Train, Begin the Begin, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies, Break On Through, As We Know It, What Have I Done to Deserve This, The Name of the Game, Deny, 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 Thanks for the Memories, It's the End of the World, Enough is Enough, Something to Talk About, Let It Be, Much Too Much, Yesterday, Superstition in 17th, Bring the Plane, sorry, Bring the Pain, Blues for Sister Someone, Band-Aid Covers the Bullet Hole. This episode was 21st, Damage Control, or Damage Code. Jeez, I can't read today. Then we have Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Owner of a Lonely Heart, and Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. So I'll start off by saying that these types of episodes that are very focused on a particular case or event tend to always be my favorites. And that is because I actually have the time typically to care. So I don't care like immediately. So when you've got like 4 or 5 different patients, 3, 4 patients that are getting like a few minutes of screen time in between all the drama happening between the doctors themselves and outside of the hospital and all that other stuff, it's very difficult to care. So when they like pass on or when something doesn't go well or whatever, it's very difficult to care about them because you don't have that time to care what happened to them or to care about their particular case. Whereas with the focused episodes, because everything typically is revolving around a specific incident or a specific patient, as it was in this case, you actually have the time to care, and that makes the emotional impacts a lot more successful. And the one in this episode I felt was among the more successful emotional impacts in the show so far. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I did enjoy that all of the characters were very likable. Marshall was likable. Betty and Jim were likable. Noah was likable. And Melanie also, because she was still awake when she came in, you could see how much she cared about her family, how she was calling for, updates on her mom, on her dad, on her husband, on her baby, caring more about her baby at first than herself. So you can see like what type of person that she was because she was awake when she came in. So that also made it hit even harder again when she ended up passing on because you had gotten attached. All of her family members were likable, and they very much loved her. So again, you could really feel that her loss was a loss to all of these people. There was Marshall, who was basically the one that all of the interns could empathize with because he was one of them. Maybe, yes, at a different hospital, but had the same experiences, same tiredness, same, you know, it could have been any of them that had had this happen to them to have caused an incident like this. They all recall times when they did fall asleep in various places where it would have been inconvenient, though luckily no one else was put in danger by those incidents. So overall, like very successful emotional impact. And because it was focused solely on this case, really, well, I mean, there was a little bit of a side quest into Denny, but his is ongoing. Brief, it's a brief side quest there, but most of the episode was very focused on these patients, this situation, this incident, this car accident, and I felt that you were given the time to care about the patient, to care about the other family members, to, hope for them to be successful and have it be upsetting when they are not. And I liked that a lot. And I like that just like the in general focus that they were focused on the one incident. I also really enjoyed Meredith and Finn. George actually reaches out to Meredith, says that he'll see her at home. So it looks like he's also a little bit further on his healing journey with regards to him and Meredith, which is great as well because honestly, he was dragging it out a bit too far in my opinion. And I've said that I think in another episode, like a couple episodes back, I was like, it's getting a little bit like as he said in one of the episodes, like everybody has bad physical intimacy experiences, and that doesn't mean like you have to blow up your entire life and mope about it for like weeks and weeks on end. So I'm glad that he's starting to move forward from that incident and heal a little bit. What else? Derek's behavior. I wasn't like, okay, I don't approve of Derek's behavior, but I do think it does make for some great dramatic moments. So while I disapprove, I am entertained, and so I'm not really, for me, it kind of balances out to like a neutral because I've got the entertainment factor, even if I disapprove of the behavior and the actions being taken. I mean, again, he chose Addison when he was clearly not necessarily in love with Addison, but very much in love with Meredith, and Meredith was in love back, and it's like, that was a stupid choice, honestly. I understand why they did it for the drama, for the show, for the plot, but frankly speaking, I think it was a stupid choice. And obviously, as rewatchers, we know it's not a permanent choice. All of that combined, I didn't think anything was really negative. Even the things that could have been negative, I felt, for me personally, were still entertaining and sort of neutraled out, which means that this episode is a 10 out of 10 for me personally. And on our season 2 ranking so far, we had first As We Know It, second It's the End of the World, and then this episode I did put into third place Damage Code. And then we had Make Me Lose Control, Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, Something to Talk About, Into You Like a Train, Break On Through, Deny, 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 Let It Be, Tell Me Sweet Little Lies, The Name of the Game, Begin the Begin, Blues for Sister Someone. Oh my gosh, I couldn't read that for a moment. Thanks for the Mermaid. No, oh my god, thanks for the memories. Jeez, I can't read right now. Much Too Much. Yesterday, Superstition, Enough is Enough, Bring the Pain, Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, What Have I Done to Deserve This, Owner of a Lonely Heart, and then currently in last place for me personally, Band-Aid Covers the Bullet Hole. Bringing us now to the final segment, which is the series ranking so far. And on our mostly objective ranking, Season 1 was at 77.78%, Season 2 187 out of 270 so far. Personal ranking, Season 1 66.67, and Season 2 so far 167 out of 270. With that, we've now rewatched and ranked Grey's Anatomy Season 2, Episode 24. Oh, I've been saying Damage Code, but it's Damage Case. Oh goodness. Pretend the entire time I was saying Damage Case. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.